Hey guys, Heather Chauvin here. So welcome back to the show. We are on episode 50. And if you can hear some noise in the background, that's little Felix, my 3-year-old son. And of course, I have my dog Ellie near me, touching my feet, and my other dog, Mark. Hey, Felix. Is she going to get you? Felix isn't always a fan of Miss Ellie. But anyways, guys, so today the interview is a very, very special interview. Today I interviewed Dr. Shefali, and if you do not know who Dr. Shefali is, she is the author of The Conscious Parent and Out of Control. She is kind of the revolutionary trailblazer in the conscious parenting movement. Of course, there are a lot of people who talk about different aspects of conscious parenting. And conscious parenting just means awake, being awake, not sleepwalking, not being burnt out. And I don't even know how I found Dr. Shefali. All I know is that I found her after I started my own business, doing conscious parenting, after I started getting into meditation and mindfulness with my son. And for a long time, I always had this, gut instinct of how can we parent in a conscious way. So when I came across Dr. Shefali, she was speaking my language, and it was like, yes, I'm not alone. That's how I felt. So what I love about Dr. Shefali is her approach to parenting, and we will be talking about this in the interview, but her approach to parenting is about, being conscious in that moment. So many times I get questions from parents about like, what's the strategy? Give me the script, the action steps for how to discipline, how to get my child to listen to me, yada, 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 yada. And the thing is, guys, we're always trying to look for the easy way out. And that does not apply to parenting. Parenting is just a sacred relationship, and our children come into our lives, they pick us, they choose us to be their parents, to teach us these things. And if we fail to show up for the lesson, and what I mean by that is when we fail to wake up to the lessons and the opportunity, then we suffer, we struggle. But if you are choosing to live a conscious life and to wake up to the lessons and the opportunity for growth, that's where we find freedom in parenting. And that's exactly what I teach. So when people try to debate with me of why parenting needs to be so difficult and why their child is so difficult, I say, guys, parenting can be easy. Of course, change is not easy, but being human is not easy. This is a very vulnerable and difficult challenge. So if we're up for the challenge, it becomes fun. If we're not, it becomes a struggle. So you choose, because we always have a choice. So if you haven't heard of Dr. Shefali, she's been on Oprah. She's like Oprah's go-to parenting coach expert. She has her book. She has another book coming up called Thriving Families, I'm pretty sure. It comes out in May of 2016. You can find Dr. Shefali online. All of the links to everything that she's chatting about are in the show notes. But let's dive in. Understanding that conscious parenting is a journey and that we are not alone. You are not alone. So, Mama, you have a choice. And so let's dive into the interview, and I will see you at the end of the interview. Parenting is one of those conversations that is swept under the rug a lot, but this is one of the most important conversations that I think we all should be having at the dinner table, at the parties, and pulling back the curtains. What do you think?
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's the pivotal journey we take on in our lives, and it combines and integrates every aspect of our being. So I think, the more we talk about it and pull those curtains back, as you said, the better we will be and the better our children will be.
For sure. I attended your Evolve Parenting Conference in December, and it was such a place of unity for myself, knowing that I've been on this conscious parenting journey for so long. But what I love about how you talk and your approach is that there is no one right way. And I think so many parents are trying to find that special formula or that, that book, that solution of how do I get my kid to listen to me? How do I get them to do this? How do I find this? How do I do that? And you take a very different approach, which I love. And I think it needs to happen more often. So what got you to this point of the conscious parent and parenting from this place?
Well, exactly that. As a therapist, everyone would come to me looking for that magic answer and feel frustrated when I would tell them that the answer lies in the ability to enter the present moment with our children, step back from the agenda, from the ego, and really attune to the needs of the child. So that was a very frustrating answer for parents, because that meant that they would need to do the work, and they could no longer look at their children as automatons ready to be created into the parent's own making. And that really goes to, cuts at the heart of the entire dysfunction of the parenting paradigm as it currently stands, because book after book keep presuming that we can give these golden interventions and these key strategies. While strategies are great, at the end of the day, it's our ability to be present in the moment that is going to create that connection between parent and child. And it's not about connection as in lovey-dovey. It's about connecting to who the child is in front of you.
I think that's huge, what you just said about, there was a lot in that about how just what we're being fed right now through the mainstream parenting paradigm of, finding that golden intervention. But the last thing you just said about accepting and seeing the child that's standing in front of you, that's huge.
It's huge because we want the child to be a certain way, and 95% of the time, the child is not going to be according to your fantasy. So now we're watching the fantasy on the left-hand side and the child on the right-hand side, and there's this huge conflict between us because our ego wants the fantasy, because we've not been trained to be detached from the ego and to enter the moment. The moment is the child on the right-hand side. And here comes the battle of wills, all the things the child should be and the child ought to be according to the fantasy. And now the child isn't, and now we blame the child for not being what the fantasy was, instead of entering the present moment and awakening the child into the child's best essence or the child's best representation of who they are versus who we think they ought to be.
So there's something, I'm not laughing because I'm just like, yes, this is so exciting, but I'm laughing because of how we just have it asked backwards. Well, not we, but society as a whole. But what you just said about awakening the child that is in front of you, that is something that appears to be a new concept in parenting, about awakening that child in front of you instead of the illusion, right? So how do we begin, or how does that woman, that mother, that father, that grandparent begin this transformational experience of becoming that person that our child most needs when they are feeling burnt out, stressed out, overwhelmed, exhausted, and just at their wits' ends?
Well, you're asking a really packed question. You're asking how...
We have 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
You're asking, how does an individual, forget them being a parent, first you're saying that the individual is chaotic, disorganized, burnt out, and stressed. So how do they take care of all that stuff and unpack all that in their own lives? Then you're saying this individual, this happens to be a parent who needs to now do a million things a day for the child and be present for the child, who, of course, we all know the child has a zillion things going on in any given moment. So you're asking for such a unpacking of a million dominoes at one given time. That is virtually impossible to even pretend I have an answer. So I'll just start with, simplistically speaking, the most profound thing you can do is to unpack your own life. Look at your day. start with the morning. Start with the 15 minutes or 20 minutes before your child gets up. And ask yourself, am I ready to be organized enough and sane enough to meet my child? Because my child is now going to not get up on time. Then my child is going to make me stressed out because I'm going to be late. And my child is going to need from me some level of patience and organization that I don't even have right now. So how can I use the 20 minutes before any challenge, before the child gets up, when the child is coming home, dinner time, bath time, bedtime? We know the triggers. How can we prepare ourselves at least to have a modicum of sanity within us to deal with those challenges? It's not easy, but no one asked us to have children, and no one told us it was going to be easy. So if our lives were already chaotic, disorganized, unhappy, and stressful, what were we thinking to invite children into our lives? So now we owe it to them. We just owe them some level of basic sanity. We cannot be flipping our lid when they do not get up in the morning, because they are not going to get up in the morning. We cannot flip our lid when they cry at bedtime, because every kid creates a fuss at bedtime. These are the givens of childhood, but we somehow think that child is not going to come into our lives, and that monster child only exists on airplanes or in our neighbor's house. No, this is the state of childhood, and now it's up to us to contour our lives to meet the needs of the child. So we just have to kind of create that space every single day and every single moment, and not take everything personally, and not treat our children like robots and expect them to want to get up in the morning and want to do their chores and want to, do homework. They are going to push back. Are we ready for the pushback? And then are we ready to see them as children with needs and not just simple behaviors that need to be fixed?
I love that. And I love what you're talking about with those 20 minutes before, because that's something I always advocate for with people. And they say, sometimes, I don't have enough energy, or I'm so tired. I'm like, guys, you need to start creating this momentum, right? So that eventually you get to a point where you're like, I have so much energy that when you go to sleep, you're like, I don't need to, waste all those hours in the middle of the night, burning the midnight hour just to get you time. It's incorporating this in your daily life. There's a quote in your book, which my book is tattered. I call it my parenting Bible. And I just refer to it all the time. But there's a quote that says, conscious parenting means that this is our interaction with our children. We ask, am I dealing with my child in an aware manner, or am I being triggered by my past? So you've already talked about being in the present moment with your child. I think it's really important to talk about the past, right? How we were parented, how our parents were parented, and how that can consciously and unconsciously creep into how we're showing up every day for our kids.
Yeah, we could spend the entire, every moment, entire waking time focused on the past, because there's so much unconscious gunk that has built up, toxic waste that has built up that we've not examined, because, society doesn't encourage us to look at ourselves as products of our past. Society encourages us to create more gunk. Let's achieve more. Let's run away more. Let's be distracted more. Let's not lead contemplative lives. Mm-hmm. Let's not see that the most spiritual and most purposeful thing you can do is to arrive in every moment clean and pure and untethered. Society doesn't teach us that. Society teaches us to pack more stuff. So yes, we do need to go back and live that examined life, examine the past, for the most part, not to live in the past, but kind of to know that these are my main issues. I was raised by a controlling mother who was very anxious, and a perfectionistic father who was very controlling. 99% of us have that going on in our families. So examining that and looking at how that has impacted us, I am anxious not because my child is triggering me. I am anxious because my past is triggering me. Mm-hmm. And to begin to reframe the present moment triggers as coming from the past, but then not to live in the past and not to become guilty and shameful, but to just be informed and then to practice present moment detachment. There's no way around it. We all, as conscious beings, have to practice some sort of contemplative, in the moment, meditative technique that works for us in the moment. It's not about going to a cave in the Himalayas and checking out for a month. It's about being in the moment and watching the ego rise in the moment, seeing your mother come up in you in the moment, seeing your shame come up in the moment, and then choosing to detach from it and choosing another way. So this takes a lot of work and a lot of mental discipline to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a job. It's a job. It's a life journey, right? It's a spiritual. I always say that parenting is personal growth on steroids, because if you were choosing not to look at something before, it will come up very quickly when you have children.
Exactly.
What's your perspective on, and I know you get this a lot, but the whole discipline debate? Discipline, punishment, well, if my child's kicking me or screaming at me, what am I supposed to do? Just let them do that? I hear that a lot.
Yeah, it's not about, letting someone do something or not letting someone do something. This is the myth of parenting, that we are in control of what another person does. No, it's about stepping back in that moment and understanding that there's a need within the child that is not being understood, acknowledged, or helped channel in the right way. So yesterday, my 13-year-old had to clean a sink full of dishes. And it was quite a disdainful task. There was a lot of food that was cooked, and her job on the weekends is to clean the sink and load the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. And her initial ego, her initial defense, her initial fear, her initial laziness, whatever the shadow within her was, made her really become rude and disrespectful, and she dug her heels in. And of course, that raised the ego within me. How could you do that? It's your chore. It's your obligation. And I wanted to go down a righteous rant. And I saw that arise within me. And I could have easily done that, and I would have been right, and I would have said something to her like, well, you're not going to go out with your friends later on tonight because you are so disrespectful, and da-da-da-da. And you know how we parents go on and on. Mm-hmm. But I also saw that if I went down another path and understood that she was being a child and she was just simply being unconscious and simply being childish, as children are, how about I awaken her to the higher consciousness? So, and I don't do this all the time, but once in a while I am conscious, and I went up to her and I hugged her and I stroked her and I said, I know it's scary for you, all these dirty dishes. They look disgusting and they look scary for a kid. Let me help you. And so I began walking her through it and helping her through it and hugging her and telling her how much she is appreciated and how much I would appreciate her and how much she's needed, and slowly melted her. And within 3 or 4 minutes, she was doing it. But it took those 3 or 4 minutes of me not entering the ego, which was so tempting, and entering her heart space and bringing her into her heart. And she said sorry, and she hugged me, and she said, I don't know whether next time I'll remember this, but I hope I remember this. And I said, why don't you try to remember this? And we had a moment that was a lot of work for me to do, because I did want to yell and scream at her, but I chose another way. Now, most parents forget, and me too, I forget to choose the other way. So easily we become defensive that we then attack back with an ego. But let me tell you, when we attack back with our ego and we punish and threaten and scold, and we forget that the child is being childish because they don't know another way at that point. They are not naturally wise. They're not naturally sage. They're not naturally tempered. We need to keep building those muscles within them. So every time we attack back with the ego, let me tell you, we have lost a moment to bring them into their heart and teach them the right way. And when we do, yes, it takes a lot of discipline from us, a lot of gumption in that moment to not be seduced by the ego. But when we do, our children are infinitely grateful because we have chosen a better way in that moment, and they recognize that. And we can tell them, look, I was dying to do that too. I was dying to scowl to yell, to sulk, to threaten. I wanted to do that too, but I chose another way. And each time we show them that it's not easy for us to choose to build that muscle, but we do it, then they learn, oh, the next time somebody bothers them, oh, it's so easy to give into the ego, but let's choose another way. So it's about learning together. It's not easy to do, but this is the only way. And slowly liberate ourselves from creating more gunk. And every moment we watch ourselves not creating more gunk, we feel proud of ourselves, I know that sounds egoic, but we can pat ourselves on the back and go, wow, I missed that landmine. I could have easily created shame and blame, but at least for that one little moment, I missed it. And yeah, kudos to me. And then we move on and we build on that momentum. It takes a lot of work, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding when we miss that landmine, and at least for that moment, we created resilience and created positivity and abundance rather than creating fear, shame, and guilt.
I love that. And I liked what you talked about we're trying to figure this out together with our children. And it's not a master the script or master the theory and then implement. We're human. And I don't know why, but so many women, especially women, but parents in general, forget that we are human beings having this human experience, right? We're spiritual beings having this human experience. And our children are the exact same. And 99% of the time, they are so much wiser than we are because they don't have so much gunk on them. But when you were talking about co-creating and just learning with our children and talking about the process of how we're, what am I trying to say? So how we are, there was something you said, just give me a second. How we're overcoming.
Co-creating.
Yeah. Right. Yes, we're co-creating this with our children. So we're breaking generational patterns, right, of parenting, how we were parented. There's a lot of resistance there. But yet we're still able to create this authentic relationship with our children. And yes, it's difficult, but everything worth having is work, right? So can you talk about the rewarding benefits of what is possible for parents? Because I work with a lot of parents who are struggling and almost to the point where they've lost hope. But I know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So can you talk a little bit about what is possible for parents when they start going down this conscious path of how can I co-create this life with my child?
Well, I think it's first understanding that the paradigm has to shift within the being of the parent, the mind of the parent, and not look at this as a top-down, me-to-you kind of, I do this for you and then you owe me this kind of transactional relationship, but to really integrate the wisdom that we have attracted this person into our lives and this person attracted us as their parents to undergo this lifetime together. And once we surrender to that, there's a grander picture. We don't know exactly how that works, but there's definitely some co-creation happening even before they were born. Like there's a reason why this child came to us, and we fully accept that. Then it no longer look at this child as lesser than, younger and immature, but that every moment this child is here, even the ones where we completely messed up, it's almost as if the child almost knew that we would mess up. And now the child is saying, hey, I'm here to teach you, and you can use me, not too much, but use me to wake up. And I'm going to be okay if you wake up with me. And I'm here to show you that we can do this together. So it's almost as if understanding that it's not that you messed up, but that the child came as an instrument for you to wake up. Really shifting the whole way we look at it, that the child came here to be your teacher, really. And yes, you blew up at your child and you lost your cool or whatever you may have done. But instead of, being racked in guilt, it's about saying, wow, my child almost knew that I was going to do that. My child, kind of triggered that awakening within me. It's like my child allowed me to use it, and it allowed itself to be used as a vehicle for me to look in the mirror, but provided we look in the mirror, right? If we don't look in the mirror, then it's just garbage. It's guilt, garbage, shame, garbage. It's just the replay of our old stuff. But when we look in the mirror, we can almost cry with tears of gratitude that, oh my God, you allowed me to yell at you just so I could see how monstrous I am. Thank you. And I will change and I will commit to a new way of being. So it's really looking at this whole process in such a sacred way and seeing how our children allow us to use them to wake up.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I love how you're talking about, using our children in a productive, positive way to wake up, right? To see the possibilities of what life is about. And I think that's so beautiful and amazing. What do you say to that woman who's listening and has read the book and is read every other self-help book out there and is struggling to find the awakening, to find the acceptance, to find the gifts, and is yelling and screaming and crying herself to sleep?
Yeah, that she's not alone. I'm there many times, and you've been there, and every parent has been there. So first, we're not alone. But on the other hand, it's time to wake up. And there are ways to wake up. However, we need to start today. This is the moment we begin to clean up and start. What does that mean? We start following one new way of being, be it an exercise class, be it being quiet all day, be it not asking a single question of your child all day, be it just watching your child closely and connect from a nonverbal open space, be it writing in your journal, be it, just having a pajama day, putting no pressure on yourself. Whatever you need to do that has not been done till now needs to be done today. We cannot wait another day to start. So if your day has been fully busy and stressed out and you're exhausted, well, then take a day off from laundry and cleaning the dishes and simply be with your children in your pajamas and take off that stress. Or if you're stressed out because your kid is too busy and overworked and overscheduled, well, clean out the evening and don't do a single thing today and release yourself in that way. Whatever your issue is, look at it, write about it, ask for help, and turn it around today.
Beautiful. If I asked you what your definition of parenting is, what would that be?
Extreme vulnerability, raw honesty, and daring audacity to change. Every day. Every single day.
Yes, I love it. And I love how open you are with your parenting journey as well, because I'm sure it's easy for people to assume, oh, well, you wrote the book Unconscious Parenting, right? Like you must be perfect. We all do that. Look at the comparison game. And I like, Dr. Shefali, how you're talking about, yes, it's simple as the dishes, right? Where you were in the mental space to say, okay, great, I can show up consciously today or in this moment, or sometimes it may not always turn out like that, but it is a moment by moment thing. And I really appreciate how you are so open and vulnerable to share your experience as a parent as well, because there is a lot of shame and guilt that can come in if we invite it in. What is I know you're on a mission, and I love how you're so bravely putting yourself out there and getting it out there. I've seen that you have something coming up, the Super Soul Sessions. What do you have coming up? Where can people hear, see more about you? And what do you have coming up in the rest of 2016?
Lots of things. So, I talk all over the country, but we have Oprah's Super Soul TV, live sessions with 11 luminaries on stage, one at a time. So people should sign up for that on Super Soul TV. That's on April 9th, but tickets are going on sale really soon. And then my next book, The Awakened Family, is coming out end of May. So that's exciting. There'll be announcements about that soon. I'm going to be doing a webinar for new moms and for moms with kids under the age of 6 soon. And then Evolve, the summit that you attended, will be in New York City, October 21st to 23. There'll be, notices about that coming up soon. So people should just sign up to my website, drshefali.com, or go to my Facebook page and keep, on trend with what's coming up.
Yeah, I think it's really important to I always say, find your tribe and then run with them. Find your tribe. If it's something that you are truly interested and committed, or even just curious, right? There's different evolutions of the process. So I definitely recommend you get one of her books, because you have The Conscious Parent and you have Out of Control as well, right? And The Awakened Family is coming out. So all you have to do, you can get them anywhere. But thank you so much, Dr. Shefali. You have been an inspiration for me in the work that I do, and just allowing me to keep trusting and going in the right direction, and that there is no right or wrong, because I think that's really, really important for people to understand, that it isn't a moment by moment basis. Any last words?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think, you covered everything today, but I think just that for parents to understand that it's not perfection, it's a vulnerable process. You don't know what's going to hit you on any given day. Don't think that I know the answers. For myself, I'm figuring it out every moment, because that's what the journey is. It's about being awake every moment. There is no prescription. No one is doing it better than you. Everyone is struggling, because children throw things at you that you're unprepared for. It's unpredictable. It's torrential. It's harboring on dysfunction at any given point of time. And it's not about seeking this harmonious, peaceful, happy, whitewashed family. It's about a vibrant, dynamic family which has a lot of moving parts. It could be a divorced family, a separated family, a single family, parent family. It could be a gay family. It could be all sorts of families. It's not about how it looks. It's about how we are using every moment to grow. So just to encourage everyone out there that it's not about any idea or fantasy. It's really about using the present moment to become a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And that's about it.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom with the community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mama, so there you have it. That's Dr. Shefali, the author of The Conscious Parent and Out of Control. You can connect with her on Facebook and her website, and all of those links are in the show notes. It was an honor to host Dr. Shefali on the Mamas in Control podcast. If you liked this interview, please share. I'm sure you know at least one mama or papa or grandparent, or maybe it's your husband, who would love and benefit from this interview. Share it with them. I know I've shared it with my husband.